Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Takedown, Jackrabbit Illustrated podcast focused on South Dakota State wrestling. My name is Chad Myros. I'm joined today by my co-hosts Alex Kenkel, Jordan Schoenrock, and we're very excited today to be joined by Jackrabbit Wrestling legend and current coach Clay Carlson. I don't know why my brain did that. I screwed up the intro last week too, so might as well just keep it going the same way. How y'all doing today?
Good. How are you, Ben?
Good. Yeah.
Coach Carlson, glad to have you. Been a minute since we've had you on. Last time probably as an athlete. Why don't you give us a rundown about what's different in your life? First question, I guess, before you get too into that. Did you ever have that big steak you were going to have after your last weight cut that you told us you were going to have?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've had I probably eat steak twice a week right now. My wife and I, we love going down to Outback down in Sioux Falls, and we get the 24-ounce porterhouse. And right after the season was done, my senior year, I ate that myself. But now we just split it. We kind of found a little happy medium where I don't need to gorge myself at every meal. Settled in a little bit. So yeah, it's been good. It's fun. I mean, I get home from practice now and I'll maybe drink a glass of chocolate milk, have a Dr. Pepper, eat dinner, have dessert afterwards. It's a lot different than what it used to be where I'd get home and I'd just drink as much water as I could and then eat, a 500-calorie dinner and call it a night, so
and chicken breast and some rice and go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. So,
well, I think you're looking good, sir. I mean that genuinely. I'm fairly confident you've probably put on a pound or two, but that's okay. What we really need to do is get you hooked up with our regular podcast sponsor. Troy Hadrick has his own beef line, hadrickranch.com. Oh man, is his beef good, dude?
Yeah, I mean, it's a staple here. We're eating some sort of beef pretty much every day. So,
well, but if I'm not wrong, Carl, he's a farmer too, right?
Yeah, so my dad is a dairy farmer.
Dairy, right?
Yeah.
So that's not the meat thing.
It's like coal cattle.
Yeah, we got a lot of coal cattle. I mean, we're milking 2,000 cows now, so there's plenty of turnover there. But we also started raising our own beef animals as well lately.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Got some Wagyu Angus crosses that we started raising.
Angus.
And man, the Wagyu is so good. And so we've experimented with that a little bit. It's been a lot of fun. So I guess you asked what's new in my life. I have a baby now.
I can kind of hear in the background there.
You can hear her. She's getting a little fussy. So, but yeah, that's been a fun change. So she's about 8 months old now. It's just been a blast. So.
Does she beat up on Caldwell's kid?
Early on because they go to the same daycare, early on she did a little bit because she could crawl before Knox, Cody's son, could crawl. And so she would use him to like pull herself up to standing, and Knox would just lay there on his belly, poor guy. But Knox is about 10 pounds heavier than her, and they're only 1 month apart.
Oh, geez.
And so now that he has started crawling and pulling himself up to standing, I don't know that she has the upper hand anymore. So, but it is really fun watching them play together. So.
Well, I always like hearing about the farming. It sounds like everything's going well over there. Will we see more Carlsons ever wrestling at SDSU in the near future?
Yeah. So my cousin Conlon is a freshman right now on our team, and he wrestled 149. He wrestled at, I think, 3 tournaments, and then he had a knee injury, had to have surgery, and so he has been off the mat now this whole spring semester. But he'll be back for hopefully the U20 Vegas tournament here at the end of April. And yeah, I'm excited to. I think that he is definitely a shoo-in for most improved wrestler on our team since he got here in September. And I mean, he's been off the mat since January, right? And so it's been a lot of fun to see his growth. And then my younger brother, Kevin, is a senior in high school, and he is going to be coming out here next year and wrestling. So yeah, there's going to be now 2 of my family members on the roster starting next season. And so, yeah, pretty cool.
So You say that you're hoping that your cousin's back for U23s. I got to ask, since we've seen one of our other Jackrabbit legends take the mat last weekend, get ready for the U.S. Open. Were you that ever cross your mind to go compete in that, or you just straight up coach life now?
So it definitely crossed my mind. Early January, I was actually like, yeah, let's do it. And then I started training a little bit more for myself, I guess. And it was challenging because out of the 6 days that we are on the mat every week, I probably wrestle with one of our starters 5 out of the 6 times. And I can't really train for myself when I'm wrestling our starters. That's about them because ultimately that's my job, right? So the one day a week, I don't know. I feel like I would be doing somewhat of a disservice to myself, to the guys on the team, if I wanted to go compete and do that, just because I would be taking away from them. It's definitely one of the most challenging things I experienced when I transitioned from athlete to coach was, for 24 years of my life, every time I wrestled, I was focusing on what can I do better? What do I need to improve on? What did I do wrong there? And all of a sudden it's flipping to, what is this kid I'm wrestling with? What is he doing wrong? What could he improve on? And so it took me a little bit of time to kind of get into that mindset. And now if I want to go compete, I got to flip back again. And I don't know, it's kind of hard. And so I don't know. I also had knee surgery at the end of October. And so I'm coming back from that. And it's been a little bit of a roller coaster where it's like 1 week I feel great. The next week I wake up and I'm like, why is my knee stiff today? And so I just think I'm at a point where I'm content. My wife tells me all the time, Clay, you need to close the yearbook. And so I think that's finally starting to sit in a little bit. And I see where she's coming from. I had my time. I had, plenty of opportunities, plenty of success. And I'm definitely satisfied with my career. It's not like I feel like I need to go prove or do something extra, So, yeah, I kind of backed out on that in the last month or so, just because it's hard to focus on coaching and giving to my athletes and then being selfish and trying to train for myself. Those are very opposite things. So
you kind of led into and walked right through my question. I was going to ask you what's kind of the difference between being an athlete versus being a coach. So you kind of covered that, but I do kind of have a follow-up to that. As a coach now, how hard can it be sometimes, especially, guys such as yourself, couple-time All-American, if you're trying to give, maybe one of the younger guys in the room a look, how hard is it to that second nature of a guy shoots a lazy shot, obviously you don't see a ton of this in the college room. This would be more like a high school thing, but a guy shoots a lazy shot. I'm not just going to rip his head off with a crossface. I'm actually going to try to teach him something here. Or do you teach him something by ripping his head off with a crossface?
Yeah, I would say it definitely depends on time of year, proximity to competition, and whether or not the competition they're competing in is tough, right? When I wrestle a lot of the freshmen, it is kind of like switch back to like attack mode essentially, right?
Sure.
It's like I think one of the biggest benefits I had as a freshman is I would come in, and that was when Seth Gross was still on the team, Henry Pohlmeier's on the team, Chris Dardanes is one of the assistant coaches when I first got here, and I basically wrestled one of those three guys almost every practice. My philosophy when I first got to college was I should be training with the best guys all the time, and why would I want to wrestle somebody who isn't as good as those guys? So I got to college, I was just getting smoked for like a month and a half straight before I finally hey, I actually scored a takedown on Seth, and things like that started happening. And so I think that there are benefits from me just saying, all right, I'm going to get this guy so tired that he can't walk after we're done with practice today. And there's a time and a place for it, right? And because I think that there is a little bit of a difference in the pace and the toughness of college wrestling. And so when we get these young guys, it's like that's the best way that you can indoctrinate them into your training program, right? So yeah, I definitely do have days like that. And then I have days where, I may be wrestling with Brady Roark, right? Well, I'm 40 pounds bigger than him when he's down to weight. And so I actually get more sore from wrestling with him than I usually do from bigger guys, because the whole time I'm trying to not use my weight. I'm trying to, fall on him gently. And so I'm like constantly restraining myself. And that's actually hard because it actually takes more body control than just going, hitting my high crotch, doubling off and spearing my shoulder through somebody's stomach. You know what I mean? Like that's easy because it's naturally what your body wants to do. But then to like pull off and restrain, like that's where like it can actually be challenging. And so it's definitely, a balance game. And one thing that I thought was really funny is it was about 3 weeks ago now. I was wrestling one of our guys that isn't starting this year, and it was a practice where we only had maybe 8-9 guys at practice because everybody else had worked out earlier in the day. And so it was just kind of like I was the only coach there. I was like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drill for 20 minutes. We're going to wrestle live for 20 minutes. We're going to get out of here. We're short and sweet. And so I'm wrestling with this guy, and I scored a lot of points and he didn't score very many. Right. And my cousin Conlon is watching, and he told one of his classmates, he goes, I kind of forget that Clay's actually really good at wrestling. And it was just funny to me because like so many times when I'm in the room, it's like I am kind of holding myself back because, when I'm wrestling smaller guys or even like our starters, I'm wrestling them like the day before a competition. If we go a live go, I'm not going to go live because, I mean, like I've been talking about, I'm drinking Dr. Peppers and chocolate milk after practice, and these guys haven't had anything to drink for the last 24 hours. Like, I'm not going to just let it all out. You know what I mean? Because that's not going to help them, And so, yeah, it was just funny to me because it was one of the first times that I was able to just let go and just wrestle at the best of my ability in a while. And yeah, that was when I was still thinking maybe I should compete at the Open, So I was like, let's go see what I'm capable of today. And it was a fun practice for me. I don't think it was very fun for my partner, but yeah, it was just funny. But yeah, it's been a good transition and definitely trying to learn when it's the right time to wrestle a certain way. Because like when I wrestle with Cale Swenson, I just go all out every time I wrestle with him, right? Because I think that the type of wrestler he tends to struggle with are the short, strong guys. Well, perfect. I'm a short, strong guy, right? So I can just go all out. And if he struggles with me, it's like, well, for him, it's not necessarily a confidence issue because when he first got here, he couldn't score on me for the first, like 3 months he was on campus, right? And so when we wrestle, it's completely back and forth. He tends to get the better of me now, right? And so I'm okay with just letting go when I wrestle with him because I know that he can handle it and it's not going to be detrimental to him. And it's actually been a lot of fun this year. I don't think we wrestled at all last year when he was coming back from his ACL injury. And so now we've been able to start training again. And I think that at around his weight class, I'm one of the only guys that can really push the pace with him and get him really tired. And so, I wrestle with him, it's a little different mindset than when I wrestle with, like a Derek Cardinal, a Cale Seaton, Brady Roark. Julian Tang I can wrestle really hard with because he gets me really tired. So
he told us that you've gotten the best of him a time or two when we had him on last week.
Well,
definitely.
Yeah, so I listened to that, when he was on here and he was talking about, I think he said that I got the best of him that day because we had just wrestled the day that you guys had him on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he totally lied to you guys. I didn't score on him until like the 8th minute of live. I had given up a couple takedowns before that. It's like, if this is a real wrestling match, I lost already. Like the fact that I started scoring that late, that doesn't really matter, but I just thought it was pretty funny when he was talking like, yeah, he gets the best of me. I was like, not today. It was pretty funny. But
well, I just remember once again, had you on before when you're an athlete, stories of you wrestling guys off the mat and into the locker room. So now that some of those guys are older guys and can maybe hold their own, has there been a little get back on any of that? Or
no, I do my best to stay on the mat and off the wall. Some guys have tried that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's a complete choice. It's like you could be utterly exhausted, but at some point you got to have enough pride to be like, I'm a coach. I can't get pushed off the mat. I can't get shoved into the wall. And so I haven't done much of that now that I've been a coach. I feel like that's maybe a little inappropriate, but yeah, some of the upperclassmen have been like, Clay, we haven't seen that out of you in a while. What's going on? It's like, I don't know if I need to bring that side of me back again. So
Well, I mean, according to Julian, you have both old man strength and dad strength now, so you're unstoppable.
yeah, it's all that steak I've been eating. But
Hey, there's a lot of good minerals and vitamins in that beef.
yeah, no, one thing I noticed after I graduated, the first 3 or 4 months after I was done competing, I weighed the exact same as I do right now, but I didn't look the same as I do right now. My cheeks were puffy, had a little bit of gut on me, and then I think as I've maintained this size and continued to train with our guys, um, a lot of that little extra flub is just turned into muscle because I still lift with our guys sometimes. And so I do think that I'm probably stronger now than I ever was when I was competing at 141. So I do feel a little bad when I'm wrestling our 41 pounder and I just use my strength. But at the same time, it's like Julian needs that. He's just like Kale where he struggles with the strong guys. And so I feel like it's probably the best way that I can wrestle with him to get him prepared for this postseason. So
if I don't want to get too personal, I got a quick hitter here though. Where would you slot in the lineup right now?
I could make 149 if I had to.
Okay.
If it was my choice, it'd be 57, just because I don't want to cut weight anymore. But I think to make 41 again, it would take me probably 3 months to get down to 41. Whereas usually I could do it in a month, back when I was competing. But like I said, it's the first few months after the season, it's a softer weight, I guess. It's a little like, yeah, let's be honest. I put fat on right after the season, but then after, 12 months of being at that weight, then some of that fat goes away. Because I mean, I wrestle more now than I ever did as an athlete because I wrestle almost always twice a day, and so as an athlete, it was like once a day, maybe twice a day. But like if I had a lift, I did a lift and a wrestle, and that was the most I would do in a day, right? And so now it's like, okay, I have an individual with this guy in the morning. Then at practice, our 184 pounder needs a partner. So I go out there and I just get my butt kicked for 2 hours straight, right? Because, but that's just what I have to do, and so it's a lot of fun. I mean, I've wrestled almost everybody on our team at this point, so yeah, no, it's a lot of fun.
Let's talk for a minute here about the difference in like what you did. Like to me, it's crazy that you did it the way you did because I mean I've always looked at you as pretty professional, even as a student athlete to everything. Like you took everything professional. But how big of a difference is like some of these wrestlers are still some of your best friends that you recruited and brought in and stuff like that. How do you draw the line there between the between being a coach and a friend nowadays?
Yeah, that was a tough thing for me, and I feel like last season, I felt more like a almost like a grad assistant, or like basically like a fill in. Like if somebody needed something, then they could come to me if the other coaches were busy. And this year, I actually like noticed a big switch when we had a lot of complaining going on. There was a lot of guys that were feeling sorry for themselves and saying that, we should get this, we should have that. How come, the football team gets this and we don't, or things like that going on. And I was just sick of it because it was like every time that I interacted with somebody on the team, it was something negative about, the cards that we were dealt as wrestlers at SDSU. And I was just like, you guys, you don't know how good you have it, this amazing facility that we're in. And so there was one of the days that I had to lead the lift. We had a little bit of a strength coach turnover this fall. And during that time, between Cody and myself, we were leading lifts. And so it was a Saturday morning. I was the only coach there. And I said, guys, we're meeting on the bleachers in the wrestling room before we go lift. And I gave them like a 7-8 minute speech just about gratitude and just like if you're constantly sitting there going, this isn't fair. I should get this. How come I don't get that kind of treatment, or how come I don't get these amenities? That's not going to make you better at wrestling. You know what I mean? If you want to end up on the podium in the postseason, do you think sitting there and feeling sorry for yourself is helping you get there? And so I just kind of talked about being grateful and just, you know, you could have the worst wrestling room in the country, the worst partners in the country, but if you approach it with a mindset of, I'm going to make the most of this, I'm going to, um, I'm grateful for the situation that I do have, the opportunity to actually wrestle at a Division I school. I think that gratitude is kind of a superpower, and I gave that speech, and I feel like a lot of the guys on the team, it kind of shifted for them where it's like, this guy is a coach. He's not just a friend that now is put in this position. It's actually somebody who is trying to make us better. Because after that happened, like last season, I worked with a lot of the freshmen, a lot of the backups, but I didn't hardly have any like questions from starters about anything, or I didn't spend a lot of time with them. And that changed a lot after I gave that speech that day. Because now, like I said, I wrestle with Brady Roark, Derek Cardinal, Kale Seaton, Julian. I wrestle all of our 49 pounders. I wrestle with Swenson. I wrestle with Marcus a lot. Even Moses, I've wrestled a few times. And then I did an individual with Brock after one of the duels where he had a tough loss. And I just think that guys have actually started to trust me a little bit now. And that's made my job a lot more rewarding, I would say, because I'll be honest, there have been a lot of times where I'm watching guys in our duels and I'm like when we get our elbows caught in a front headlock, and I'm like, why are we not working on this? That's my best position, And so I actually have guys now coming to me and saying, I just can't score a front headlock. And it's like, okay, well, let's work on this. And then I've actually seen guys implementing it now in competition. And it's just super rewarding because, you feel like the time and effort you're putting in is actually paying off. Felt like last year I struggled with that a little bit because I didn't get to see any of the stuff I was working with the people I was working with actually come to fruition. And that's just because I didn't get to, you don't get to really see the freshmen compete as a coach because they're mostly unattached, right? The whole spring semester, they're going out doing their own thing. And so, yeah, it's been a good year for me. And I feel like I'm finally contributing a little bit as a coach and giving back to these athletes. And it's been a lot of fun. So, yeah.
Well, I would say we are quite lucky to have the wrestling facilities that we have now versus maybe when you started, and it's probably really cool to have that perspective since you started back when Seth was wrestling, and that had to be really interesting because his style of wrestling to me didn't seem like he was ever going to shoot on you. That's just how he wrestles, it seems.
Yeah.
That's my opinion anyway. But I mean, you could kind of maybe see because John was still around, right? Reader?
No, he
Oh,
left right away
he
with
left.
Chris.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
by the time I got here, it was all the
I was
coaches that we have now, minus Chris, I suppose. But
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember my
Kurt is.
overlap isn't that good there, so my apologies. I was
No,
gonna say
you're
because
good.
he kind of did the coach slash wrestler thing too, because he was always doing some wrestling outside of an opens and stuff, from what I
Yeah.
recall. But
Yeah. And I would say that Reader's perspective on things were to always wrestle with attack mode on, regardless of when they're competing, regardless of who he's wrestling. And that's probably why he was able to still keep competing, because
sure.
his sole purpose and goal was to just score as many points as he could and beat people as bad as he could, And so, um, yeah, I feel like there's a time and a place, like I said before. There's a time where I can do that, and there's times where I probably shouldn't. So
I can appreciate it.
Were you recruited by Bono, or were you all recruited by Han? Because I know you were Han's first recruit, but did it start
yeah,
with a Bono deal, or was Han come find you, pick you out after Bono left?
no. So what happened was my older brother Colton was here wrestling for Bono and Reader, and he basically said, hey, my brother Clay's doing really well. You should recruit him. And I think Bono's words to Colton were, if you want him to come here, then go get him and get him to come here. And so Bono basically wanted Colton to recruit me to SDSU instead of having to do it himself. And I mean, as I don't know, being the person I am, I was like, well, I don't want to go wrestle for somebody that doesn't even want me to be there. So I was not going to come to SDSU before Damien got hired. I was actually going to commit to go somewhere else the day that Damien got hired. And then I was like, well, I better wait because I always wanted to wrestle at the same school as my older brother. And so I ended up postponing that and was like, well, I'll go meet Damien. And after I talked to him, I was like, yeah, that's the kind of guy I want to compete for. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was going to come to SDSU. My brother was at SDSU. And so it was a pretty easy decision at that point. It was like, okay, now the pieces have all fallen into place because I didn't really want to wrestle for a coach that I didn't want to wrestle for. And so once I had that, I was like, okay, perfect. I'm good. Let's do it. And yeah, best decision I ever made, probably. So
we agree. It was a great decision for you.
Yeah.
No, I'll kind of tie that in to the next one here. So don't want to get maybe too far ahead because we've talked about this more at the end here, but big duel coming up this weekend. What are some of your favorite memories of competing, whether it's in the Border Bell series or obviously probably a lot of memories competing at Big 12 and Nationals? I've had some time to sit back and reflect now. What are some of those things that really stood out to you? You go back and you're still going to be talking about 30, 40 years from now.
Well, one of my favorite stat lines, I guess, wrestling versus NDSU is that I've never lost to an NDSU wrestler my entire career. And I feel like that's pretty cool.
Definitely.
I would say memories for the Border Bell. I wrestled the same guy from NDSU 13 times in my career, Dylan Drogemuller. He was a Minnesota guy, so I wrestled him 2 out of those 13 times in high school and then 11 times in college. And so I ended up going 13-0 against him all time, which Dylan was a great guy. I mean, him and I were actually friends off the mat. It was actually really unfortunate we had to wrestle as much as we did. But I remember one time we were in Fargo wrestling. I think it was during that COVID season, so the one that ran from January to March.
Yep.
And so we had a triangular with NDSU and Iowa State up at NDSU.
Yep.
And I wrestled Dylan, and early on in the match, he took a shot and he hurt my private area, and I gave up the takedown because I was like, this hurt really bad. So I just give it up, right? And I'm kind of fighting back, and I get a stall call with like 15 seconds left in the match to tie it. But the table workers didn't add the point. And so Dylan didn't think that he had gotten hit for stalling, and he thought he won the match. And so he celebrated. He was getting the crowd pumped up. But I knew. I was like, I heard the ref. I saw him put one up. Score's tied. We are going into overtime. And so I basically just stood on the line ready to go. And all of a sudden, Dylan calms down. And it had to be the hardest thing ever. You think you win a match against a guy you've never beat. And all of a sudden, it's like, what do you mean it's tied? I got to go to overtime now? And so he steps on the line. I take him down in like 15 seconds into overtime to win the match. And like that to me was a really fun win just because it was gutsy. And I was just like, you're going to celebrate when the match isn't even over yet, you know? And so that one was a lot of fun. And then obviously my last Border Bell match was in Frost Arena. I wrestled Gavin Drexler, who is now an All-American for NDSU. And that one just meant a lot to me. It was my last match ever in Frost in front of the home crowd. It was a good match. Went out on top. Wanted to score more points. Thought I could score a lot more on that guy, but it turns out he's actually a lot better than I had thought at the time. So maybe it was just a good win for me. I don't know. But you asked about my favorite matches of my career. I guess I could There's 3 that really stand out to me. I could probably talk about a lot of them, but winning the Cliff Keen against Andrew Alirez, it's probably one of my favorite matches of all time.
That guy hasn't done anything since.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That's sarcasm.
Turns out he was a pretty good wrestler.
Yeah.
He went on to win the national tournament either that year or the year after.
It was the year after, yeah.
And was an Olympian for Mexico. So he's a stud.
Yeah, and then both my blood round matches that I won. So against Real Woods when I threw him to his back with 5 seconds left to win, and then Alan Hart, who I took down with 3 seconds left to win. So both of those matches are they have to be some of my top matches because, they were arguably the most important in my career. And I had to do it in dramatic fashion because, how else am I going to shorten my wife's lifespan, I guess, other than stressing her out when I wrestle? It's a little ridiculous, but yeah, she was always like, why do you got to do that to me? But yeah, those are probably my top 3. If I had to pick a 4th, it would be the other time that I beat Andrew Alirez and Frost in front of our home crowd, because it was very similar to how I won it at the Cliff Keen against him. He went up big early. I came back and beat him at the end. I love winning matches like that. Back wins are my favorite. So.
You won a lot of them like that.
Yeah, I did.
That NDSU match you were talking about, was that the one where they moved it into the gym?
No.
That was scary.
Okay.
Sorry, hey, Chad.
Yeah.
The match he's talking about, I don't know if you remember this or not, but it went very popular on social media that tournament with somebody from South Dakota that runs a Black Hills tournament. Yeah, that's the weekend he's talking about up there for that one.
You were there. I'm not good about remembering those as well, quite as you guys. So
yeah, you were there. You were up there for that one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think I was there actually. I
think you rode with Mr. DeVos.
Yeah, I think. Well, that was.
I met him up there.
Yeah, I can't remember. One time I went up with DeVos and one time I went up with Brendan, so I can't really remember. Speaking of DeVos, maybe that's a good segue. Do we want to talk about that a little bit, Jordan? You want to talk?
Sure. You want to? So, just random question here, Clay. So DeVos goes out to wrestle in the Open, and we'll get on to the whole Jackrabbit Open here after this question. But DeVos goes out, wrestles that Open. Can you coach him, or can you not have a coach in the corner since he's technically unattached?
So I think that technically we could have coached him because we are Jackrabbit Wrestling Club coaches, and he was registered as a JWC athlete. But I think that I'm trying to remember exactly what Cody said to me. I think he just basically said that it's a bad look to sit in our alumni 2-time All-Americans corner as he's wrestling like freshmen and redshirt freshmen from other schools. And I don't disagree with him. Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think that Cade really needed us either. He went out and scored, a ton of points in both the match. I think he got 2 tech falls. Obviously, he was focused on his top wrestling his neutral wrestling because he's going to be wrestling through cell only here soon.
Right.
But yeah, no, it was actually a lot of fun to see DeVos go out there and wrestle. I mean, he's in the room almost every single day, wrestling with us. He's going to he's in pharmacy school, so he's going down to Sioux Falls for all of his classes. So he usually doesn't get to practice until 4:45, maybe 5 o'clock. And so usually there's a guy that he texts beforehand. And he's like, hey, if you want to get there at 4 and warm up and then just sit on a bike and pedal until I get there. Or, there are times where Cade's partner ends up drilling with somebody else. And then once Cade shows up, then maybe if I didn't have a partner, I take, the one guy and Cade takes the other. But, he's training all the time. And I talk about how I wrestle differently depending on who I'm wrestling. Cade doesn't do that, right? He just picks who he wants to wrestle, and he just does what he needs to do for that practice. They're usually off to the side, kind of doing their own thing, spending a lot of time working on their feet, and then he's spending a lot of time recently on his parterre defense. That's been a lot of fun because it'll be after practice, and we just get a lineup of guys that all try to gut wrench Cade all in a row, and Cade just sits there, just utterly exhausted, his rib
Sharks in the water.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm next, and I get in there and I squeeze Cade for 20 seconds, and so yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's really good to have a guy like that, just because like Simez is getting older. He isn't able to wrestle as often as what he used to. I mean, he also just had knee surgery. Yeah, and then Cody's got 2 kids. He's also getting older. I mean, I don't really want to say I'm getting older when I'm as young as I am, but it's good to have more guys that are at Cade's level that can wrestle with our athletes, just because I think that it's a great opportunity to wrestle guys that are that good. How else are you going to know what it feels like to wrestle an All-American unless you actually do it? And so, it's been great to have Cade there because he also is a very technical wrestler. And so, he wrestles with Julian sometimes, and they spend 30 minutes just talking about ankle picks and how to finish depending on what that guy does. And that's something that I'm not going to spend time with Julian on because I never hit an ankle pick my entire life, so it's just good to have him there. And I think he's having a huge positive impact on our team right now.
Well, so, I just think it's funny, you talk about you're doing sharks in the water. How many times does a coach get in on that drill and they're the guy in the water and not one of the sharks, right?
Yeah. No, it's pretty funny. But yeah, he did it. Oh, what day was it? It might have been Monday, and it got out of hand. I mean, almost everybody on the team wanted in on it. And so it was like 15 minutes of Cade just getting gut wrenched. And I walked into the locker room afterwards, and he's like, I'm going to be so sore after this.
His ribs are probably a little.
Yeah. Because, he should have been done, 5 minutes in, but instead, he was like, oh, I'll let everybody try once. And then, Quinn Morgan, U.S. Open Greco champ, comes in at the end. He goes, now that you're warmed up, I'll go. And then, he just turned him right away because Quinn's really good at guts. And
yeah.
So, yeah, poor Cade. He just got his ribs crushed for 15 minutes. But
does he end up wrestling at all with Brady? Like, do those two? I mean,
no.
Brady's a little smaller than him, but
yeah. Brady is also going through some injury stuff right now. So his time on the mat is pretty limited.
Okay. I had no idea. Sorry.
Yeah, and so I think it'd be really tough for Brady to wrestle with the boss too, because I think I actually weigh more than Brady does right now.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So Brady kind of quit lifting weights, and he's super lean. I mean,
okay.
So, yeah, Brady wrestles with Bennett a lot, and then he also will wrestle with Archie, Brady Rourke, and then he spent some time with the twins too. I don't think he wrestles with them very much though. But yeah, I mean, he's still pouring into his club a little bit. He's wrestling with some of those guys, and so I see him doing like rehab mobility stuff, like multiple times a day. If he comes into the room, he's gonna do 30 minutes of that before he does anything else. So
sure.
Yeah, but I don't think that he has any desire to wrestle with the boss anymore, which I don't blame him because I definitely don't have a desire for that either. So,
well, I just didn't know if they worked hand fighting technique or whatever because he was pretty good at that. I know.
Yeah, I'm sure if Cade has questions, he would ask him, right? But
sure,
I don't think Cade has many questions right now because the only people that really wrestle with him are non-starters for the most part at this point in time, right? Back in preseason, it was all starters wrestling with him, so he was getting pushed a little bit. But now he's like he wrestles with Jacob Herm 3 times a week probably, and Jacob's really good, but he's not Cade DeBoss yet, right? And so like Cade also probably has 20 pounds on Jacob, which doesn't help Jacob at all. But yeah,
but it probably helps him get better, like make him better.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, Cade has kind of taken Jacob under his wing a little bit. It's been, I think, really good for both of them. So that's the one thing I feel like coaching does that people don't realize is also makes you better. I feel like technically I'm a better wrestler now than I was in college, but I just I'm not in as good a shape, So maybe I would perform worse, but technically I think I'm better. And so
And it's got to be fun wrestling Moses because that guy don't stop much, does he? He just goes.
yeah, no. It is a lot of fun wrestling Moses. He's he's like the same height as me, and he wrestles 174. And so yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, if he gets his hands on my legs, he's probably going to take me down, which is very rare. Usually I'm pretty comfortable when people get to my legs, and he's just so strong now that it's really hard for me. But yeah, the one day we wrestled, it was a ton of fun. We basically were just sparring after the guy gets in on our leg, and so he'd let me get to his legs, and then he'd try and stop me. And I'm really good at finishing, and he's not the best at defending. So I actually had some decent success scoring on him, but it was good because we were able to work on that with him. And then, he'd get to my legs, and there were times where I was able to defend, and we worked through that. And yeah, no, it is a lot of fun wrestling Moses because he just goes, and he's very dynamic. I feel like sometimes he holds himself back a little too much. I don't know if you guys see how dynamic he truly is. And we're trying to break him out of that a little bit, where it's like, dude, you can start pulling the trigger sooner, more often once you get later in the match, and just open up, light up the scoreboard. And so, yeah, I think that he's putting things together. He's going to have a fun postseason. So
let's talk about a little bit about how the Jackrabbit Open went with the younger kids, how you kind of expected them to wrestle, and how they all went with you kind of being in a development. Well, I mean, now you said that you do wrestle a lot of starters this year, but last year you being in a development role, like that was with a lot of them kids.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just kind of go through starting at 125 and just talk about everybody that competed. We had our senior Logan Graff wrestle at 125, and his very first match was just chaos. They started out and they smoked heads right away. The other kid definitely was concussed, but he ended up continuing wrestling. I think Logan split the other kid's head open in that exchange, so the kid got his head wrapped and stuff like that. They keep wrestling, and Logan ends up tweaking his knee, hurt his knee while he's wrestling, and they keep wrestling, and he just completely wrecks his thumb. And so he ended up winning the match 7-4, but he was so injured after the match that he just pulled out of the tournament because his thumb, I don't know. We haven't done an MRI, so I'm not going to say what it is yet because I don't know for sure, but he's probably done wrestling now, which is unfortunate that was the way he ended his career. But at least he ended with a win, I guess. He got super hurt and he still won. So good for him, I guess. We also had Carson Dupill, who was a freshman at 125. And Carson ended up going 2-2. I think that put him in third place, maybe. I don't exactly remember where everybody fell in the brackets because there were forfeits and stuff like that. But first round match, he pins a guy from Nebraska. Then he lost to a decent guy from, I think, Iowa State in the semis. Gets a win in the Conci semis, and then wrestles the same guy from the first round match that he ended up pinning. It was a close match, but he pinned him at the end. And he lost to that guy for third place. And that match was definitely put a sour taste in his mouth. He was a little upset about that. And the one thing that I keep preaching to Carson is he's so athletic and he's so gifted, and he just freezes up when he's competing sometimes, and he really focuses on trying to win instead of trying to score the next point. And so I think that that was a good learning experience. I know it sucks when you lose to somebody that you just beat earlier in the day, but it kind of hammered home some of the things that I've been talking to him about, where it's like, if you would have opened up and got to that guy's legs, took him down a couple times, like, you're going to win that match. But when you try and just hold on, wrestle defensive, don't push the pace, you're going to get stung sometimes. And then you lose 4-2 because you couldn't go get a takedown at the end. Right. And so, I know he was frustrated with the tournament, but I was like, what a great learning opportunity to kind of motivate him into this off season now, where it's like, all right, you got to go be offensive now, be offensive. And every day at practice, he can just focus on that. So 133 was a tough weight class because we had 3 registrants and they were all SDSU athletes. So that kind of sucked, but I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about it. Basically, based on the season that our 33 pounders have had, we felt like nobody had outright earned the starting spot. And so we were hoping that we were going to get some other athletes in there and that our guys wouldn't have to wrestle each other, but that wasn't the case. They ended up wrestling each other. And Kale Seaton ended up coming out on top. And so that's who you'll see this Sunday against NDSU. Kale will wrestle. So 41, we had Logan Swenson and Liam Neitzel wrestle. They both went 1-1, maybe 2-1. They lost in the semis, ended up wrestling. They were supposed to wrestle each other for third place, and they didn't wrestle each other because we don't really see a point in our teammates wrestling each other unless it's for a reason, right? So they both had decent tournaments. I mean, Logan Swenson, he's a guy that, he was a freshman last year. This season has been somewhat challenging for him. And I think that he's kind of coming out of it in the right way right now. I wish that he had a couple more competitions that he could kind of build off of the momentum that he's gained right now. But this offseason, he just needs to get bigger. And same thing with Liam Neitzel. They both thought that they were probably 33 pounders, but they're both taller than I am. And when they wrestle at 133, they get overpowered a lot. They're just really weak down at that weight class. And so we felt like them trying to lift and get a little bit bigger, they might fill into a 41 pounder and have more success there. But that decision was made, in November, right? And it's hard to put muscle on when you're still competing and you're mostly training wrestling. And so this offseason is a great opportunity for those two individuals to just go get strong. Hopefully they can get up to, 160 pounds. Even if it's not a good 160, that's how you're going to put muscle on. So I'm excited for those two. Liam will get to wrestle out at the US Open here at the end of April. So then at 49, we had Avery Allen wrestle. Avery, I don't remember what his record was exactly, but I know that he ended up losing to a Minnesota backup that he had just beat last weekend. I guess 2 weekends ago now, right? And so very similar to Carson Dupill. That one stings a lot. He's pretty disappointed in himself about that. But once again, I think it's a good learning opportunity. I mean, I told him before the match, don't give up underhooks. And he gave up an underhook and gave up a takedown because of it. And, it's just kind of a good learning opportunity to be like, all right, I need to make sure that if I have a game plan, I stick to it. And I need to be able to clear underhooks. And, so that'll be good for him. 57, we had 2 of our freshmen, Bas Diaz and Zach Belanti. And they both ended up in the third place match as well. They beat a couple similar opponents. They lost to 2 different guys, I think. But, they both wrestled all right. I'm excited for them. They continue to improve. So 65, we had Jacob Herm wrestle. He made the finals where he wrestled Max Mayfield from Missouri, who has been ranked in the country this season. I don't know if Max is actually going to be the guy from Missouri, but Jacob went out and was up 6-2 with about 5 seconds left in the first period. And he decides, you know what, I'm going to rip a lefty headlock and gives up a takedown with 3 seconds left in the first period. So now it's 6-5. The match goes on, they each get an escape, and then Jacob gives up a takedown with 20 seconds left in the third period to lose the match.
Yeah.
And so that one was tough, but, I keep saying it. What a great learning opportunity to be like, Jacob, just because you feel like it's there, you're winning already. Like, you're wrestling Division I college athletes. I don't know if a headlock's going to work most of the time, right? And I was joking around with our guys. Bryce Andonian had a quote one time where he said, "Birds don't think about flying, they just fly." And so I was joking around with the guys about that. And like, yeah, but sometimes if the bird's not ready to leave the nest, then they fall, And so, it's a good learning experience for him. So then at 74, we had Ryan Dozel, who went, I think, 1-3. He was winning a match 5-0 and tried to turn the guy and ended up getting reversed and pinned. And so So he's really upset about that match specifically. It's quite unfortunate for him, but what are you going to do, right? And so once again, a good learning opportunity for him. Then at 184, we had, I think, 4 athletes. We had Burke Blasius, Jarrett Watson, Jared Teary, and Shane McConville all wrestle, and there was only 2 other guys in the bracket. And Jared Teary went out, wrestled the first guy, pinned him. Then he wrestled the second guy. He dang near. Oh no, the guy that he pinned, he actually knocked that guy out. And so then the rest of the 184 pounders from SDSU couldn't wrestle that guy because he was injured. So we were like, dude, you're stealing matches from your teammates here. Like, it's fine if you want to go win, but you don't need to hurt the guy to do it. So we've been giving him a hard time about that. But yeah, all of those guys did really well there. Shane McConville lost a match 19-23.
Oh, wow.
It's quite electric. You don't get to see 42 points up on the board very often. He needs to work on defending his legs a little bit more, because if he could stop a shot, he wins that match for sure. Because the other guy was utterly exhausted, but he would just dive at Shane's legs, and if he touched them, he scored. And so we were really hoping, going into the third period, Shane was down by 8. And he closed the gap to 4. But he gave up 2 takedowns in the third period. So I think he scored, 3 or 4 of them. So there was like 6 takedowns in the third period alone. It was just chaos. But yeah, all those guys are getting better. Then at 97, we obviously had Cade DeVos and Quinn Morgan wrestling. They both smoked everybody, made it to the finals. And then at heavyweight, we had Micah Hawk, who wasn't really challenged either. Yeah, I think Micah is kind of a hot topic, because everybody's been asking, with football and wrestling, what's it going to look like for him? And yeah, I tell you what, I think if Micah was wrestling only, I think he would be a 4-time All-American. I think that he has got the skills. I mean, how many heavyweights in the country weigh 285 pounds when they actually wrestle heavyweight, right? It's maybe 5.
Maybe a couple other guys.
Yeah. And so it's just hard to wrestle somebody that big. And the thing is Micah's not like super fat 285, right?
No.
He's strong as can be. And so if he could just continue to develop his wrestling, he could be really good, right? I mean, just think about how much he's improved since he started wrestling basically on January 1st, right before the ASU duel, where he went out and dang near took down, a top-ranked heavyweight. And so, yeah, I think Cody Damien and Micah are meeting with Dan Jackson and the offensive line head coach probably next week, and they're going to start talking about a training plan for Micah so that he can get in the wrestling room at least once a week, over the summer at least. Maybe during football season it's going to be harder, but man, we need to keep him in at least somewhat of wrestling shape so that when he gets done with football, he isn't going from 0 to 100. If he can be coasting at 50, and then when he gets there at 50, it's like, okay, in 1 week, we're going to try and get you up to 75, and then he can go compete. Because Micah at 75 is probably going to do a lot better than, a lot of heavyweights in the country. So I'm excited for Micah. I think that he has a really cool opportunity to do something that's hardly ever been done in Division I sports. So
I'd like to see him excel more at wrestling than I'd care to see him excel at football. I'm sorry, Dan. We've got lots of guys on the football team.
Yeah,
it's pretty special talent for like you're pointing out for heavyweight. So,
which one thing I will say
has the potential anyway, right?
Yes, yeah. One thing I will say is I feel like before this all started, I think that football and wrestling were working somewhat independently, and I think that after seeing Micah's success on the mat this year, it's kind of flipped a little bit, and Dan and Damien have been talking a lot, and they really want to make this work for Micah. I think Dan is trying to get the whole football team to come watch the NDSU duel on Sunday, which it's like 100 dudes to go sit in the student section, right? I mean, that'd be electric. And so I think and to Micah's credit too, is like, yeah, I'd like him to be wrestling only, but I think he's got the potential on the football field to probably go play in the NFL, and it's pretty tough to tell a kid to not pursue that, right? And I think from Damien's point of view, he's like, yeah, Micah, go do that. And then I'm going to get you on the phone, when I need a new facility upgrade or new wrestling mats, So, and it's like, I'm okay with this. We can work with that. So,
Ron Lowney, one of our all-time favorite guys, writes in. I think he's suggesting that Damien and Dan have a cage match, and I don't think that's. I like Dan and I like Dan and all, but I don't think that's going to end well for him.
I don't think Dan would have any qualms but admitting he wants no part of that.
Yeah,
Dan's a little bigger than Damien, though. I think.
I don't think he is
hefty, a little more hefty, don't you think?
No. I saw them stand side by side, and I think Damien's got.
Height-wise, they're the same. Yeah.
Yeah. But those two actually get along quite well. So
Dan played linebacker, so he's not a small guy, but
no.
Damien also won the NCAA championship at 197, was cutting weight to get there. So
Damien looks like he has bowling balls on it for his shoulders. You know what I mean? Like he just. But Damien has only good things to say about Dan. I mean, I think I've said hi to Dan before, but I haven't really talked to him, so I don't know him. But Damien always says good things about him, and they've been talking a lot more about. They've been talking more than just about Micah, and I guess it's all good things. So,
yeah, if you get a chance to talk to him, it's worth your time, definitely.
Sure.
I know he's probably focused on the NFL, but maybe we see Quentin Christensen.
Come back. That'd be awesome.
Former 3-time South Dakota State champ.
I mean, he could in his last year of eligibility, could he not? Just come wrestle, too?
It's what Nash Hutmacher did.
That's what I was going to say. Isn't that what Nash did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he's a little smaller than Quentin is. Probably made it easier, but.
So, was there a little hint there that if the football team might show up on Sunday, that we might see Micah on Sunday?
I don't know about that. I think that Dan just wanted to show support, basically.
That's cool.
Say, Chad and I got to talk to him a little at the ASU duel. He was there for that. That was pretty cool to see him there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, it is fun that he shows his support, and I don't even know for sure if we're going to be weighing Micah in or not. I think he has a date left, but I think as long as Raz is healthy, Raz is wrestling. So
makes sense.
I didn't know if Raz was healthy. It was my way of asking if Raz was not healthy.
He didn't want to ask. How's his knee?
Legitly saying it.
No, Raz was a little under the weather last week, but I think he's coming out of that. And last I talked to him, his knee was sore, but getting the update from Jordan is basically like, I expect him to be sore, but it shouldn't be anything that he can't wrestle through. It's not like he examined his knee, it's structurally sound. And so, it's just a matter of how sore is it? Can he wrestle through that? Right. Because my point of view is always, if he wrestles, is he going to make it worse? And if the answer is strongly yes, then probably shouldn't wrestle. But if it's like, it might get sore, but it's not going to injure him. It's like, okay, well then we could probably go wrestle. Right. So that's how I always view it with these types of things.
So how bad do you want to beat these guys? Because I know we always want to beat them real bad as fans, but give us your perspective.
Yeah, I feel like the rivalry is more on paper than it is like person to person. Like I said, like Dylan Drogemuller and I were friends. And I talked to quite a few of the other NDSU guys. And last summer I coached Team Minnesota's Fargo team up at the high school nationals over the summer. And I think two of those guys are on NDSU's team now. So I've talked to them, and I have relationships with a lot of guys on the team, and I think our guys do too. And it's pretty, cordial. I don't want to call it friendships maybe, but definitely like good acquaintances. And I would say there's pretty much no hard feelings between us coaching staffs. There's no hard feelings between the wrestlers. I think it's mostly fan based.
Sure.
But still, it's so fun to beat them. You know, it's not like I dislike the people, but there's just something about, horns down.
Well,
and
there's only 2 or 3 traveling rivalry trophies in wrestling, and we have one of them.
yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I don't know. It's really fun to beat them. And the thing is it's almost always closer than it should be because it is a rivalry match. Right? I think that the coaching staffs work harder, scouting wise. I think that the athletes are like, I don't care who this guy is. If I'm a Jackrabbit, I'm supposed to beat the Bison, right? And so I think that it ends up making everything a little bit closer. And so it's always a lot of fun, and I think that this Sunday's not going to be any different. I think that a lot of people think with as much success as we've had this year that we should like mollywop NDSU, but they have a pretty solid team, and our guys are actually going to need to show up. And I think one common theme that I've noticed this season is that when our guys go out there and they're expecting a fight and they can't wait to just go prove that they're the tougher wrestler, that's when we perform at our best versus when we go, this team stinks and we're going to smoke these guys. Then we go out and we look flat. And so I think it's really important for our guys to understand that you almost have to embrace the grind and be like, I can't wait to just go get utterly exhausted and just try and smoke this guy. I think that that's the kind of mentality our guys are going to need to have, because if they think it's going to be easy, they're going to be sorely disappointed. And so I'm hoping that that's the mindset our guys have. I know Damian said at the beginning of the week, like, this is a pretty solid team. And if we're not ready, we might get surprised, right? So make sure you're ready, because we're not trying to lose to these guys, So I think it's gonna be a fun match. I think that the only weight class they're technically favored to win at handily is probably 149. That Max Peterson has been on a run lately. 184, we're going to see Jarrett Watson this weekend. Brock's elbow is pretty banged up still, so we're keeping him off the mat. And I think Watson is going to be a decent matchup for their guy that they have at 84. He's pretty solid. He's ranked like 27th or something like that. But I think Watson might give him some fits. Watson's really talented, really athletic. So I think it's going to be a good match there, 84. I would argue that's more of a toss-up, despite that guy being ranked and us throwing a freshman out there. So I would say those are probably the two matches that we're most nervous about. 25 is going to be fun too. That Zeke Witt is an upper body guy, and that's always scary. And so
we petition the coaches to start at 165, so we end with Swenson Drexler.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I might bring that up tomorrow.
I
like this idea.
125, but I don't know. As a wrestling fan, that'd be fun.
Yeah, no, I think that's
if it's going to
definitely
happen,
a
this would be
possibility.
the year for it to happen.
I agree. Yeah, so it'll also be Arky's first time weighing in a few weeks, so that might actually be a well-received idea. So
sure,
yeah, that could be fun.
You heard it here first. If it happens, it's
Yeah.
Alex Kinkle
my idea.
and the Kinkle model's idea.
Yeah, that would be fun. So I do think that I think Kale's going to get the better of Drexler. Kale's been wrestling well, so very dynamic.
I personally think Kale's probably a 10 to top 12 kid right now, and unfortunately the rankings aren't showing it because of one, I don't even want to say bad match. It wasn't really a bad match. He just got caught in Wyoming.
Yeah. That's the thing about that Jared Hill. He I feel like he chooses when he wants to wrestle really hard and when he doesn't. So he has all these bad losses because he's just like, this guy's not that good. I don't need to try. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm losing. And then he loses, right? But all of a sudden it's like, okay, I got Cale Swenson. I got to get ready. And then he goes out and upsets him, and I think that's the type of guy that Jared Hill is, which is super frustrating when you lose to him, because it's like, how do I lose to a guy that lost to somebody I tech falled earlier, right? And so
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for this weekend. I think it's going to be a fun duel. I think that the more fans we get in that place, the better. You know, we don't want any green and yellow. We want the blue and yellow. So we got to pack
I
the
always
place.
don't like having the
Oh.
other fans behind me. It
No.
actually drives me nuts.
Chad,
Yeah.
against you and I, Chad was getting annoyed.
I can believe it.
Together,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's just cut it there. That's fair. Speaking of cutting it, you've been very gracious with your time. We always enjoy having you on. You're a great interview, as is all of our coaches. I don't have anything more for you. I think Alex is pretty good. Jordan, you have anything left to ask?
I'll just say this quick. If this gets out in time, football season ticket holders, if you haven't seen the email, check your email. They're giving you 4 free tickets, the duel
That's
to come
right.
watch the SDSU versus NDSU. So if you're a football fan and you're
If
watching,
you're a season ticket holder for any sport, they're
Any
trying
sport,
to really
yeah.
pack that thing this week. So
Sure.
Would be great.
Also, there's a giveaway for the first 300 some fans.
Right.
I think they're giving away those blue glow
the
or light up
glow
batons.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're also giving away Border Bell Mardi
Bell. Mardi.
I can't even say it. Border Bell Mardi Gras beads. So I think Mardi Gras is going on or something like that.
It'd be kind of like that, but
Yeah.
border bells. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Get there early, pack the place, and should be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah, I think all three of us will be Matt's side, so should be a
Sweet.
good match. I'll try not to be too loud, but loud enough.
No, please do. Yeah, we love it.
Oh, I don't want to get talked to by Damien or his wife.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't know if they'll ever talk to anybody. Them too.
Terry would probably pull me aside. I feel like. I don't know. If I said the wrong thing, I think I probably would hear about it from someone, not necessarily her, but I wouldn't say anything negative about our guys, obviously. But
no, of course.
Anyway. All right. With that, you want to take us out on a 3, 2, 1, go Jacks?
Yeah, you want me counting you down?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go Jacks.
Go Jacks.
Go Jacks.
And I normally do get Jack. My bad.